Okay, it is 6 o'clock. Okay, today is February 18th, 2020. It is 6 o'clock. We are now going to open up the Charlton Board of Health meeting. All members are in attendance, as well as Jim Philbrook. Right now, we're doing the signing and the acceptance of the prior minutes, which is right here. I'm going to move on to that. Signing of the warrants. I got one to go. Kathleen, that's all yours.
I think we are signed them all.
Okay. Next is going to be variance at septic system for 84 Southbridge Road with Green Hill Engineering. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
I'm Mark Farrell, Green Hill Engineering. Mr. Seegan? Nice to meet you. This is an existing house. It's on Southbridge Road. And what we're proposing to do is repair the septic system. So it's an area, it's kind of a steep slope going down here to the road. In the back, there's a little area up here that's been undisturbed. This has all been kind of carved out where the house is. So we're proposing to come out of the house with a tank, 1,500 gallon tank, go into a 1,000 gallon pump chamber and pump up to this area up in here. And again, the reason why we chose that area is it's down below here has been cut. So the water table is pretty much at grade. It's kind of oozing out the side of the hill. There's a high water table up there. So this is where they have the best natural soil. So I kind of pushed it up this way to minimize the grading down below. And we're asking the board for a variance to put the leach field. The system's entirely on this property, but Title V is 10 feet. But in situations for repair, the board has flexibility to go down to the property line. But we're asking here to put it 5 feet from the property line.
Okay. That's the only variance?
There's other variances, but that's the only one that impacts the abutters and require a public hearing.
Okay.
The other ones are listed here, so it doesn't quite meet the separation to the existing well. I can read through the other ones, but that's the only one that triggers a public. If you have a variance that impacts an abutter, you have to notify them by certified mail.
Yep.
So Mr. Seegan is here as an abutter.
Okay.
Sir, there's no, where's the nearest well over here on this property?
There's another house over in here, and then this is just part of the old, there's no houses up in here. Your house is
That's my property.
It's your property, but there's no wells right near the property line.
Well, not now, but if I ever build up there.
So if Mr. Seegan was to build there, I guess the question would be, he'd have to be at least, what, 50 feet offset from the leach field?
100 for the well.
100 for the well. All right. So that might limit Mr. Seegan for any future development. I'm assuming the way that you're talking, Mr. Seegan, this would be a buildable lot that you could use for that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Southbridge Road, that's Route 169?
Yes.
And where's the, I can't really see this.
They got public water now down 169?
No, I don't
No.
think so.
I checked before I went through with this. There's not.
Just a high pressure line?
There's the high pressure line for Southbridge, but they said that they weren't going to tap. At the time, they told me they weren't going to tap into it because they were worried about the high pressure line.
I think eventually the plan is to give water down there, is it not? Or
I don't know what the general plan is.
Yeah.
I would think so.
yeah, I mean, you got this water line going right down the street there, and I thought Charlton made a deal with the town to get water from Southbridge now.
We have and we are.
Yeah.
And that
But maybe
goes
not.
right past the curb as you speak, but
What about septic
as far as
going down the road down there?
sewer line,
Yeah.
I don't know if the sewer line down there or not. I didn't think there was. But
There's not, but is there ever gonna be?
You're close. It's very close.
Close to what?
The sewer treatment plant in
Sewer
Charlotte.
treatment plant.
Yeah, but it's uphill.
Yeah, but that's nothing. They would pump it.
True.
though.
I mean, sewer, to extend sewer lines is really expensive.
Yeah, I know it.
So unless industry comes in and puts it in or something like that, it's
Right.
unlikely that you people are gonna,
I don't think we'd see it.
fund it, because it would just be,
But all it takes is one big factory or
that's true.
power plant or whatever
Yeah,
is going
The
down.
power plant, they
Or
basically extended the,
Liquid natural gas,
Yeah, so you never know.
True.
But I haven't heard at this point. I haven't
this
heard
time,
of anything with the sewer line that way.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
When you put in one of these leach fields,
Mm-hmm.
is the perk test supposed to be done where the leach field's going?
Yep. Typically, how it goes.
Okay. This perk test for this was done on the property line.
Okay.
And if this is going to be 5 feet, the perk test wasn't even done in where the leach field's going.
Well, I would still consider 5 feet reasonable as far
it's
as.
same area. It was just, when we went out there, there was some question where the property line was.
Mm-hmm.
And they were close to the property line, but this is also close to property. That's another reason why we're putting them up there, is because that's where the perks were done.
Yeah.
So
It was done
And-
right on the property line. That's why we called to have things surveyed.
Mm-hmm.
I got pictures of it.
Of the perk on your property.
It was, right over the line.
Mm-hmm.
We went up there one day, what the heck is this?
Hmm.
Somebody's digging in here.
So who was there was somebody from our board representing for that perk test?
Purcell.
Tom
Tom
Purcell was
Purcell
there,
was
yeah.
there?
Yeah.
Okay. And what did the perk test come out at? It's probably in here. I
Yeah,
guess.
it's in there. I mean, it's not the best of soil. It's high water table and slower perk, so that's why he's got to put all that area. You have to put in raised systems.
And to answer your question, in a perfect situation, the leach field goes in the perk. That's where it was. But to be within 5 feet, I mean, it's still reasonable and would be accepted.
Another question I have.
Having it on the right property, though, is a.
Yeah, well, I didn't like the digging on my property,
Hmm.
burning of stuff and trash and stuff, no.
Mhm.
Another question I have is, there was a system there,
Mhm.
but now it's all paved over.
Mhm.
I mean, I didn't know you could pave over septic systems and leave the tanks in the ground and there. I didn't know you could do that. Can you do that? There's a
There's a
parking
tip-
lot over the top of where the system was. Why doesn't that system get fixed?
They typically would want to remove those tanks or fill those tanks in if they're out of service.
Well, they're out
The
of
parking
service.
lot is not over top of where the tank is.
Or the leach field.
It's not, from what I was told, from where the system was.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly where the tank is because they dug it out to see where when I originally bought the house for the Title Fives.
Yeah.
I'm just going by
The
what was perking out of the
The
ground.
leach
The tank-
field might be there,
the
but
tank is
you
here
can-
and the leach field is here.
Okay.
The tank is like literally right off of the deck.
Yep.
It's about 4 feet off the deck.
Is why can't that original leach field be remade?
It's probably saturated. Or
It's
Yeah, I
Raise
mean, we
the bank
typically
up.
try to load, it's cut there, again, it's down, there's no natural soil there, it's been cut, it's been disturbed.
Mhm.
So we tried to put it in an area that's
undisturbed.
undisturbed. I mean, he's got to pump up to it. There's a lot of trees that need to come down in order to get in there, but the soil is clearly, it's natural soil up there and it's a better,
And when you take down trees in there, what's gonna happen when you cut into the roots of the trees on my property when those trees come down? Who's responsible for that? There's dead trees in there, you're cutting through the root systems.
well, they're not going to
Seriously.
be, your trees, you have a row of planted spruce or maybe.
There's all pine trees there too, big pines.
Yeah, but the
Well,
pines
those
are
are
on
on
his
my
property, so he can.
Not all of them.
Well, he's not going to take any down on your property.
But I mean, when he gets to take the ones down on his property, you're gonna be digging into the root systems of the trees on my property, and I don't wanna be responsible
Well,
for
the
them
roots on his
when they're dead and they're
property,
coming
the
down.
roots of your trees on his property, he can dig.
So I've been through this in court on a different scenario, and it's the same thing. Like if there's a known property line, you have the right to trim
Yeah.
on your side.
Right.
the whole tree.
The
You
whole
cut
tree.
the tree in half if you want.
You cannot trespass on the other person's tree. Like you couldn't climb on your property to trim on his side. You have to do it of.
I'm talking about the roots.
It also
Versus-
works below ground, so they
Yeah.
have the right to dig below the ground. They can't trespass on your side, but they have the right to dig below ground. What's that?
I said the only other thing that I have to say is that I actually believe it's more than 5 feet off of his property. I had a design done by Jalbert Engineering,
You haven't designed yet, survey.
or survey, I'm sorry, done by Jalbert Engineering, and the more stakes that Jalbert put in were taken out by somebody on his family or his side.
Not me, no.
Well,
He may
And
not
I
have
have the original plans of that. My grandfather built that place.
okay.
So I have all the original plans of that place. And to tell you the truth,
Mm-hmm.
when Jalbert Engineering went down there, they're not the same plans that I have
Okay.
on the original plans. So
So you question the survey?
I even questioned the survey on it. Yes, I
But
do.
nobody's ever. They've told me that it's not the same plans, but nobody's ever given me the original plans. Nobody's ever told. They say they have all this stuff,
Yeah, we have 3 copies.
but they won't produce any of it.
Well,
So
we're not required to give
Well,
you our plans.
Jalbert, if Jalbert surveyed it, I mean, they're a licensed
Reputable,
surveying
right.
company. We've never had conflict with anything Jalbert's done. I'm not saying they're not wrong on this one, I'm just saying we've never had any conflict with them.
I
and-
just went to court with them. They lost every single count.
Okay.
He did the survey for one of my other neighbors on the other. He lost every single count, 12 counts, lost them all.
So,
Jalbert lost them.
Well, Jalbert did all the survey for this other guy when
so if the survey's in conflict, I don't know, that becomes a civil matter. I would really think that, I'm shooting from the hip, I really don't know, but in my world, what I would think would happen was you would get a survey, a professional surveyor, that would show something other than Jalbert, and then you guys would hash it out in court and let the judge decide. But there's certainly,
And it's only 2 feet, so I'm not going to argue over it. I'm not that petty, I guess. So, but I'm just trying to get the septic put in.
yeah, but I do know,
Where'd you
about
put your fence up? There's an iron pipe here, behind that shed.
that's where Jalbert's pipes were. That's where the fence is. Right where the pipes were.
And then there's a spike over here.
Where the building is.
No,
Where the
no.
shed is, there's one, and there's a spike next to it. Yeah.
What
That
Joe
was-
told me,
that's
he
where
told me
there
this, it's literally the center of these 2 trees, which they were done probably in the 60s. So obviously the trees have gotten
That-
much bigger.
When my son put up the stakes for that fence, they went right in where the pins were.
okay.
The pins are just set to the side of the tree. But they told me it's literally the center of those 2 trees is what they believe were the original property line. Somebody picked 60 years ago or 70 in the 60s
Okay.
when they divided that plan out.
But is
But
that
obviously,
is that what Jalbert found to be true?
that's what they told me. Yes.
And now there's current.
There's pins, but they're set to the side of the tree, obviously, because the tree's gotten bigger. They can't pin dead in the middle.
Okay. So they're like in front.
Yeah, they're towards the house. The 2 pins that he has are set on the front side of the house. That's why I'm saying like it's only a couple.
So
feet
he's saying
difference.
my plan would be conservative because I went off of those front
So he went off
pins.
the pins, which are set on
He's
the front.
saying-
Plans we have, the pins down here.
Well, that's
Now,
quite
I'm
a
not trying to make an
discrepancy.
argument, but
I mean, I can
it's
get pictures
it's
of where the
not
pins
exactly
are.
the same. It's not.
Well, if he wants, he's free to get a surveyor and go out there and stake the back line. I mean, if he thinks it's down here, then that's a problem and he needs to get it resolved.
Correct.
But everything I find, these are representative of what the property line is.
And who did this? Who did the surveying of this for this?
I
plan?
did it.
You did this.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And
So-
you're a registered.
I'm not a
licensed
registered surveyor, no.
Okay. You are.
But I am
No.
not.
He went off of Jalbert's pins.
But if he wants to, if he's disputing that, then
Still, Mark, if he's disputing it, it's still not a Board of Health issue. We would issue a variance or not issue a variance based on
right,
professional engineering on Jalbert.
that's right.
So,
Yeah.
regardless of what this board does,
Right.
if in fact it becomes on your property, then it would have to go through the channels. A surveyor would have to come out, and then after it was installed, it'd have to get moved because then it would be a
Can I ask you a
trespass.
question, Mark? What's this going to be looking like when it's finished?
It's going to be
Is it
slightly raised,
slightly like 2 feet, 3
2
feet,
feet.
4 feet?
2 feet on this this side, and then it's gonna be higher on the lower side over here.
Because the hill naturally has a grade now.
Yeah.
So it'll come,
Get a level at the top. It's not steps, Mark.
no,
It's not a step.
nope. It's a grade down basically to the front of this tree line right here.
Is it
And
gonna
then
back
it
there?
levels off for the house, and then it drops down again to the street, which the front drop is very steep. It's
Yeah.
probably a 35 degree.
You got the 40 mil in the front.
I did not put one in there, no. So this is gonna be a bump in the hill because of the water table. And like he said, the top of the hill, it's somewhat sloped, the natural slope. And then they cut it, the slope, to make a plateau for the house.
Mhm.
And then it's kind of level where the house is. And then it drops off down to the road.
Do you
So this is where this upper plateau or upper level is where the natural soil is.
Mhm. Do you think we should have a?
What's that?
Do you think we should have the mill?
Yeah, but that's not going to impact him at all.
No, it
I mean,
doesn't.
It's up. It's downhill, but
It's downhill from him. I understand
Yes.
that. I'm just saying in general. Has Tom seen this?
sure.
I did receive a complaint. I did meet with the owner, went out and met with them. They were paving.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I went to visit the property, but I spoke to Tom, and he said that he had no issues with it. I mean, I feel bad for him because they put a brand new driveway in, and the water table there, I mean, it's basically destroyed. It just,
Well, that's,
there was a lot
she
of
didn't
water
put
in
the
it.
driveway in correctly.
Yeah.
That wasn't the water table issue that she put no drainage underneath it, like the
Yeah.
contract said.
When you talk about a water table issue, you're right. It was
Right. It's the
river
whole
coming out of there.
the driveway. It's gonna be redone.
No, I'm just saying that I did go there based on an issue, but I didn't. I
Right.
just went there based on to speak with you,
Right.
based on a complaint. It was some time ago. I think it was
It
over a year ago.
No, it was September or October. I
Yeah.
think.
So I did go there, but I did speak with Tom. He's away right now, but he didn't have any issues with it. So
Okay.
I guess my concern is the fact that Mr. Segan is saying that the property line from his, it's a surveyed, I'm assuming whenever it was done
Mr. Segan
years
owns the property
ago,
behind
if it's
it.
off by as much as you're indicating, it would,
I,
Back here.
if this septic was back over where this parking lot is
yeah.
and raised up in that area, I think that would be the best place for that thing. That's my concern. Now there's a parking lot, so nobody wants to talk about it, but before the parking lot, it was an area that you could have done.
Well, I don't think it's because it's parking lot. I think it's because of the natural soils, and it's a better location for it up there. This has probably been cut out, and the
It's just a
permeable
driveway with
soil's
two parking spots
probably
at the
been
top.
distributed and removed,
Yeah.
and it's probably not as good a spot as this.
That's basically what happened. I mean, they took the good soil out and
It's gone,
it's gone.
right.
Oh, from the,
Where they had the side of the house.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, and the only other area we have obviously is this side of the house, but it's like literally right next to the well.
Right.
Because the whole front of the hill, it's a 30-degree slope on the front side of the house. Plus, I don't even own all the way to the road. There's like about 12 or 15 feet the state or town or whoever owns.
It's a lot of town road there, goes through.
Yeah,
My
the town owns
property,
a fair amount off of
You
the
have a lot of
aqueduct.
property there. Better, you're right. You have a lot.
Quite a bit.
So Mark, you're asking for 5 variances?
Yes.
What's this gentleman's house, is that it here?
I'm not sure.
It's a small lot. It's an existing house.
Long drive.
We're not expanding the system. We're just trying to fix
What's there?
what's there. The soils aren't the best. We got
That's
a
one of
water-
the reasons the other landowners, the other house, the guy that owned the house sold it, because he couldn't put a septic in anywhere.
Well, he could, he would have
I
been
think the bank
grandfathered.
took it, didn't he?
No, the bank took. Yeah, I bought it from the bank. The
Yeah.
bank took it.
But,
Would've
but
been
they ended up,
grandfathered.
because he was stuck, he couldn't get the
Well, I
septic
think a
in.
lot of people do that. They just, when they find out a septic's gonna be expensive, they do the math.
Yeah.
cheaper to
they
give it back
realize-
to the bank.
Yeah.
It's cheaper just to
So,
walk.
and just in speaking anyways, I mean, as far as putting the septic under the driveway and all that. It would be in the homeowner's best interest if it was allowable, because pump systems are work, maintenance, more money to install. So a pump system is not an ideal situation to begin with. So I don't know if physically, if it fit over here, that probably would have been a better spot for it out of the gate.
other thing it's not on. There's a garage right here.
Okay.
So anything that you put here, it's gonna literally. I already have issues on the backside of the garage with water coming in.
Yeah.
So I don't want to put another couple thousand gallons worth of automatic drainage in there.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, as an
Right.
engineer, when they're designing systems,
Right.
they don't say, let's put a pump tank in.
No, I
They,
know.
they look at the land and see
Yeah.
where else they can do, and if there's
Right.
no other spot, then the next step is a pump tank. And then
Right.
if you can't do a pump tank, then you put in a tight tank or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever you
We
have
prefer to
to
go
do.
by gravity if we can, but if
Right.
you,
If you did have it on the other side, to make it a perkable, how high would you have to raise it? What's the
4.5 feet or so, right?
probably 6 or 7 feet.
yeah?
So your concerns are the damaging of the trees.
Getting into that banking, yep, and
Encumbering his property, he had mentioned before
I don't like.
that he would, by putting it there, he can't put a well, but he's got a lot of land up in there, so.
I was gonna say, if you look at the map,
And the difference between, this scenario here is only taking away 5 feet, putting that radius of the 5 feet into his property,
Correct.
because 10 feet's allowed by code.
Mm-hmm.
So, you told me you were concerned about that,
I'm talking about, yeah, if I build up there, I don't want that messing up where I'm gonna build.
but I don't
because
think,
have to
I don't
worry
think it
about
will,
that.
because he's got a lot of land up in there, so he's got plenty of room to
Yeah.
put a well. He can put a
The
well.
other thing too is, I mean, it's an upgrade to the system, and I don't see us not allowing him to upgrade the system for potential future work. Like, I don't want to say it like in a bad way, but he's here first for the septic system. So you might have a well down the road that we'd have to try and find a spot for it or whatnot, but it's not like it's already existing or whatnot. And so I don't think the board in my time has ever denied
Now,
somebody over that.
are you gonna stay 5 feet away from that area?
Well, I think
Or are you
we-
gonna be
yeah. No,
driving
no.
over the fence I put up?
No. What he'll do is, we can beforehand just put up a silt fence along the property line here that would go from this iron pipe to the spike in the tree, and that just is a stake in the, a line in the sand where, he can't go over, when they're doing any work over there, there's
So
no
you're gonna be
grading.
5 feet away from the property line?
For what?
You said you're gonna be,
Yes.
the system
Well,
goes
the
up 5
system,
feet.
the stone's gonna be 5 feet, but the disturbance will be probably close to the property line. So by putting that stake, by putting that silt fence along the property line, just defining where it is so that, he can see where it is,
I thought
putting
you were asking for a variance 5 feet away from the
5
property
feet for
line.
the stone, for the system. But there's grading that's not considered part of the system.
So the grade is actually gonna be higher right up to my property line? What are you saying? 2 feet higher?
No, it's 2 feet higher away from your property line, and then it's gonna slope down to the property line.
I thought it was gonna be 5 feet away from the
Well, the
property
leach
line,
field's
'cause
5
that's what
feet.
you're asking for, a 5 foot.
How close is the breakout going to be?
The breakout is, on this side, doesn't really have breakout, but if this is elevation 100 right here,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the 100 contour on his property. This
Okay.
is 99.66, so
Right.
right here, probably 2.5 feet,
You're going to catch grade.
yeah, he's gonna catch grade, or the grade's gonna be equal to, the grade over his system is gonna be equal to,
Right. Grade existing.
yeah, existing grade.
I see it.
So it's basically, as you're going down the slope, it's going to go, the property line's going to be here, and he's going to go a little bit inside the property line, then it's going to start going up a couple feet, and then it's going to level off where the system is,
Okay.
and then on this side, he's going to have some grading on his side. So his banking
So you're not staying 5 feet away from my property line? You're gonna be digging right up to the line?
He'll be
Not
digging
digging,
close
but
to it.
grading,
Huh?
which is grading, not digging. Which is your right to go up to the property line to grade, and he also has that right.
Yeah.
Just like he has,
I
you have the
was
right to
asking.
clear any of the trees right up to the property line, and he has that right.
I just don't know why, I was thinking, I don't want digging 5 feet close to the property line. You're gonna be digging. I don't want that.
I don't
Why
think,
not?
I don't think we could control that.
It's his land.
It's his land, he's got the right to do that.
Well, if he gets a variance of 5 feet,
I
you
could
know.
dig a hole there if I want to dig. It's my property.
Correct.
Yeah, but isn't there?
Whether I put a septic in or
Why
not,
do
I
we
can
have
still dig
setbacks? You know, there's a reason there's setbacks, isn't there?
The
Yeah,
setback
there,
is
there is a reason for setbacks, but when they're trying to fix a failed system, we have allowed variances all the time. From the Board of Health point of view, this system is better than what is in there right now. As far as impact to the neighbors, we always try to minimize any of the impact to the neighbors. And it's, unfortunately, you're the neighbor on this one right here, and you know, you don't, obviously you're not happy with that, but I think he has the right to do that, this system. And as far as the setback goes, this board has issued variances on several different, because he's asking for 5 of them here. None of the 5 would be a first time for this board. There's other things that, like I say, if in fact you feel the surveying that they had is incorrect, if you had it surveyed and there was a conflict, and then it'd have to get hashed out probably in court. You know, your surveyor against their surveyor, and they'd probably get a third-party surveyor in there to see what's right,
to verify.
to verify it. And if at that point, you know, and maybe if you're correct about the survey, then these guys are gambling a little bit by putting the septic in before they have it double-checked or whatnot, because if this septic system is put on your property, you have the right to have it off your property and probably have it restored, because that means they probably ended up cutting some of your trees and all of that. So, but as long as it's on his property, he does have the right to do that.
I really, I really don't think it's going to negatively impact your property anyway. You know, for future or by harming any trees or any of that. I really don't think it's going to have, again, a negative impact.
Well, excuse me, through the chair. So, this gentleman feels like it is gonna negatively.
Excuse me?
He believes that it is gonna
Yeah.
negatively
Yeah.
impact, so it doesn't matter,
You
that
know-
you don't think that, let me just finish.
Yes, sorry.
It doesn't matter what you think, whether, because that's what he thinks.
Yeah.
So just for clarification, they wouldn't be here if it was 10 feet, right?
Correct.
So it's just a question of the 5 feet.
Well,
And
they're asking for 5 variances.
from us?
Mhm.
Okay,
This,
but none of them
Mr.
are in
Segan wouldn't have been
dispute
notified
because they're
if
so
it was, if it was 10 feet.
close. Right,
And the other variances would have just been,
I think we would have,
Standard.
if he's the abutter, we would have had him notified on any of the variances.
right.
mm-mm,
So
just
The
the
way-
your property
Let me,
line.
let me just finish. So the way it seems to me is that it might negatively impact you visually. But in terms of health or safety, it's not gonna impact your property. And I think Matt's right. If you do find out that it is on your property, then that's the gamble that they're taking.
Good.
But I mean, we can't, I don't
My,
think we can rule against it because it's visually unattractive,
I'm not worried about the visual.
you're not.
But one of the things that bothers me is, I never met you before, but when he bought that house, he's driving up in the back of my property, trying to tell me on the phone that he had the right to use the back of that property. In driving up in the nursery, cutting down stuff in the old nursery that I own now, cutting down stuff, throwing stuff over there, burning trash in the back on these lines. And then he takes the whole front yard and he just digs holes and buries all the trash in the front yard. I see that kind of work, yeah, I'm bothered by it. Had this gentleman come to me in the first place, we wouldn't have these issues. I have a shed that the previous property owner put on my property. So my father says, okay, let's go get some attorneys, we'll draft up the paperwork, the shed's on my property, I'll allow you to keep it there until you leave. So they drew up a paperwork, it's signed and all notarized and everything, saying the shed belongs to me when the property owner leaves, because it's over the property line. As you can see, probably these pictures show it.
Yep.
Right here.
Yes.
But the other neighbor, my dad, because he liked this guy, would allow this guy to use it. Now I go up in here, they cut the locks off, took all the contents out of it, and it's like I put another lock on, that lock gets cut off, and it's like just going through this, and I don't want to go through the same stuff with this septic system being put in. I mean,
I can definitely see your frustrations
he's
with
building in the thing. Does he even have building permits?
Yeah.
He's been building in the thing, changing the plumbing, changing the electric, changing the insides. I
Yeah.
don't even know if he's got permits.
But we gotta reel it back in. This, the Board of Health is concerned with the septic system and the 5 variances. The trash, burying that could be a Board of Health issue.
Burying the trash, Board of Health issue. I always
would-
thought it was.
I would think so.
Just drive down 169 and look up the banking.
We didn't, there's nothing buried other than rock.
Yeah. I don't know, Jim, have you had any complaints on that, burying of the trash?
I don't remember the complaint exactly, but I did go and pay him a visit. They were actually doing the driveway that day, putting a brand new driveway in. I think he's buying the house to flip it.
Yes.
But, you know, our responsibility is that if he has a failed system, his pre-existing house, the house is not habitable without another system.
Right.
I didn't see any visible, but he had a whole construction company there. He was inside working. I did go in, but he invited me in. But I can't get involved in a civil matter. I didn't see any visible trash because he had just done the lawn over in the driveway, and he did the house over. I think it's an upgrade. But as far as the septic system is, I called Tom. He says it's fine. He had spoken to Mark. That's Tom's deal. I was there based to make sure that I think there was an issue with the shed or whatever. But
It's the shed, right?
Yeah.
That's and the entrance to the shed is on my property. He said that he has this paperwork, but again, has never
I do.
produced. Right. You,
So that's the house, I think.
This is the first time I meet you, but I do have it.
Yes, that's the street view.
So I don't know, that would be a police matter on the shed. I mean, you probably have the right to cut the locks off, and you probably have the right to go to that property line, and then,
The
Right.
paper
And
that I have says, when the property owner, when I leave, the shed belongs to me. It's all in that paperwork that I have.
I would say
And that
that's-
was signed and notarized.
I
And
would
so-
think that's a police matter, as far as that goes.
So if you're walking in the shed, you're trespassing.
I would think that's a police matter. I don't know, I just know the property line. I know he can go to the property line. And anything that happened, the side deal with the notary and the court and all that, that's a side deal. That would be a police matter, I would think.
No.
So if you feel as though that's your shed and there's an access problem, whatever, you'd probably have to have it hashed out with them or take it back to court with,
I went to the police, filed a no trespassing.
okay.
Is that the shed there?
no, it's up in the back.
So-
That's the garage.
That's the garage.
That's the garage in the front of the house.
There's a new paved driveway that
Right.
All right.
washed out a little the last heavy rainstorm.
As far as the variances, number one variance is proposed septic system does not meet the required setback from a well 100 feet, 70 feet provided. Number two variance, proposed septic system does not meet the required setback from a property line, 10 feet required, 5.1 feet provided. Number three, the proposed septic system does not meet the required setback to seasonal groundwater, 4 feet required, 3 feet provided. Number four, variance of the proposed septic system, septic tank do not meet the required setback from a well, 50 feet required, 25 feet provided. And the last one, number five, is the proposed septic tank does not meet the required setback from a foundation, 10 feet required, 7 feet provided. So those are the 5 that he's requesting.
Sounds like we're in for some potential issues down the road. I mean, I didn't even realize this, the 4 feet seasonal groundwater required, 3 provided. you're on a slope already. And there's already known issues down in here with all sorts of breakout and failed cesspool and washout of the driveway. I've got some concerns. I'm
That is-
concerned about breakout here. And if this was approved and there's breakout, Mr. Segan, I don't know how often you get up there, but if there's breakout, I know it can get kind of smelly. And that's when,
Well, that's why I was talking about putting the 40 mil poly barrier up. I didn't see it on the print, but
We can put one on.
it's not a big deal.
No. And they already have that problem already because the system was there, comes from top of the ground, and it smells, and I think one of his relatives can't be outside because the current system down in here, that's what's happening.
so is this is the existing cesspool is off here.
I
in
thought the
middle of
cesspool
lawn.
was out there because it was a bank-owned property, and I don't know if it was inspected for Title V, so
So is this correct then? Is this the
that's not
location?
correct. He's saying there's a tank off the back here that would need to be abandoned. And as far as putting another tank back in there, that would not be a good place to put it because I told him from the get-go, because this has all been cut, so the water table is very high. This is natural ground over here.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
can keep the inverts and the pipes all above the water table.
So is the cesspool here?
There's a septic tank somewhere off the back of the house, and then a leach field goes over here.
Straight out.
So the current-
Basically, it's between where like the driveway is and these trees.
All right, because that's not marked. I mean, this is wrong. This isn't marked over here. So I'm assuming that then this would have to be pumped out, because I know when my leach field failed about 20 years ago, they said you can keep it, but we got to pump it out. And then they put in, not a raise system, but a system down lower, because it was definitely breaking out on my hill.
There's been nothing put into that septic tank in over a year. We cut everything off of it. We cut the pipes off on the inside of the house about a year ago. But
This whole area in here, just from visual here and all through here, fills up like a pond.
Is what?
Fills up like a pond. It's really wet in there. It's really wet.
I can imagine.
So
Yeah,
is there
the whole-
smell? Do you know if there's smell?
Yeah, my
coming-
mom can't open the windows, and she
So
lives on the
still?
house on the side where your finger is,
She's over
and
here.
yeah, she can't open the windows on her side.
Still, and this gentleman said that he hasn't had anything going in here for a year.
there's no smell anymore.
That was last year, and
Oh.
during the fall, you
Well, it
could
was
even see the black. It looked like pools of oil where that parking lot is, just black on the ground, but it was
Do you have-
old septic.
Do you have anything in your notes? I was kind of peeking for it about decommissioning the old tanks.
I thought there was a cesspool, but what I can do is show the tank here, which he indicated where it is,
Mm-hmm.
and have that pumped and crushed. That's what we do with the tank.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as this old leach field, current practice just abandoned it in place.
Yeah,
So
I'm
they
fine
don't
with
really-
that.
Yeah,
But
so
the
just
tank itself.
The tank has to be, and then he's gonna have to redo all the plumbing inside
push-
the house to come
right.
over here, because this is, by the time I come, if I use this tank or put a tank here, I'm compromised from the get-go, because as he said, and as I can observe, the toe of this slope gets wet because it's a cut.
Mhm.
And to put a tank there would be, especially with a pump chamber, it's gonna act like a sump pump.
Yeah.
And it's just gonna be pumping groundwater, groundwater, groundwater. So I put them over here,
Mm-hmm.
closer to the well, because this is natural soil over in here.
Mhm.
So I know the water table's not gonna be, create a problem over there.
The way the natural grade goes, it pushes most of the water down to this side of the house and out. And you can actually, if the driveway that's on this side of the house
Mhm.
is where it all ends up, is the bottom of their driveway is, it basically pushes it down and then out and around the garage even more.
So what I can do, I can revise those plans, put a polyberry on there, show that tank to be off the back of the house to be pumped, and what they do is just crush and fill it.
Yep.
So it's not gonna be a hazard down the road.
Right.
And then show an approximate leach field over there to be abandoned in place. And that's common practice when you have a leach field. And then no more, he won't be, that smell will not be there anymore because there'll be no more sewage going over that direction, so.
Hopefully it goes.
And I when I was up there, I didn't smell anything, so I think the smell, it would have been, I don't know when this was last occupied, but if somebody was living there,
It's almost 3 years.
you would definitely, and they probably had a problem for some number of years and just,
Kept using it.
kept
Bank-
using it.
The bank took it over in March or April of 2017.
Yeah, when you walk right off the back porch, sometimes, different times of the year, it's wet right behind that back porch.
Right. The whole side from basically the porch to the whole driveway side gets all,
It's really,
it's a pond at times of the year.
Well, just talking about the variances, number one, where it's talking about 70 feet provided, 100 feet required. On a repair situation, I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. On the second one, the property line 10 feet required, 5.1 feet provided. I'm okay with that. Tom's okay with it. I'm okay with it. Number three, septic system does not meet the required setback for the seasonal groundwater, 4 feet required, 3 feet provided. I know 4 feet required, but they do allow you to go 3 feet. This board has allowed 3 feet in the past. So I don't have a problem with number three. And anytime we've gone with the 3 foot separation, to date, we haven't had any problems with a callback or a problem on that. Jim, you could probably look, we've done several. That's a 3 foot groundwater separation, not the 4 foot. Number four, proposed septic tanks do not meet the required setback from a well, 50 feet required, 25 feet provided. I'm okay with that. And number five, the proposed septic tank does not meet the required setback from a foundation, 10 feet required, 7 feet provided. I'm okay with that. And again, if this was new construction, it would be a different conversation as far as my opinion, but there's nothing in here that would be a first time for this board. So that's my 2 cents on it. Kathleen, do you have any comment, or
I'd be interested in what John has to say.
John?
Well, all right, so it sounds like there's gonna be a change to this plan. The tank's gonna be crushed, filled, this,
Polybarrier.
this drawing's gonna be, the plans are gonna be changed. And this'll be changed too, so that it's accurate. The reason for bringing this up is I assume then that whatever we decide tonight, this would have to still come back before the board for a final approval?
Well, I think Tom's approved it, based on what Mark said. If you're not comfortable with this, or Kathleen, or neither one of you are comfortable with the poly barrier is not a big deal, and crushing the tank, it would be witnessed. It would make sure that happened. So those are 2 things that we don't have to stop the project on. 40 mil is like, it's just like a roll of tar paper, but thicker, and it just gets installed in the ground. Mark would be the one that would come out and make sure that the installer does it. It's not a major thing, but what it does is it just prevents any groundwater or any leach from coming out the side. It hits this big sheet of plastic and it forces it to go down, is the idea on that. But if I'm okay with it as it stands, if Kathleen or John, you're not okay with it, or you want to have a conference call with Tom, or you want to talk and hear Tom's opinion out of his mouth, I understand that.
So I've got, if I could, obviously the high groundwater table is a concern, especially where Mr. Segan said that it's your mother who lives over here?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So his mother lives next door, and there was some smell or whatever. So this may mitigate all that, I don't know. But where we've got by your own admission, this is all wet back in here. That's a concern. And Mr. Seegan, if you have the plans that show different boundaries, that would obviously play into this. My main concern is that I wouldn't want to be saying, yeah, go ahead guys, go ahead and, you know, change this, put in this and change the plan, and then next week they're out there, and then 2 weeks later, after they've got this and they're almost done with it, then we find out, shoot, you know what, the property line is 10 feet offset, and then that becomes a big issue.
Well, what you're saying, John, and I'm just, basically what, these guys have had a professional land surveyor come out and find these points. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's accurate. So, unless Mr. Seegan is telling this board that he thinks it's wrong and he's gonna hire a professional surveyor to come out and redo a survey,
But what about the original survey? Doesn't that matter?
well, I don't know about the original survey.
I have it.
Can I make a suggestion? Or-
But even with the original survey, though, what I'm saying is, if Jalbert goes out and says these are the points, that's their license. Mark said
I
he's
think it
not.
was Para that did the last one.
Tara
Yeah.
did yours and Jalbert did his.
If Mark was saying, well, I did the survey, but I'm not sure, well, he's not a licensed surveyor, so yeah, that raised a concern. But whereas Jalbert, the licensed person, went out and did a survey, right or wrong, this board would go on that survey. Now, if you're telling this board that you're gonna have it, you want time to have it professionally surveyed before they damage your trees and do all that, you know, then do you plan on doing that? Is I guess what I'm
I'm
saying.
gonna drag out those plans and look again at them.
Okay.
I remember when the original pins were in there,
Mm-hmm.
and when the house was purchased, those pins are gone.
Mhm.
And my dad, before he died, he showed me where those pins were, and they're not where they are now. And he gave me the plans. And they were in a planting that he did right on the edge of the planting over there, and there was a pin in there. All us boys were there, we seen it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not there anymore. It was pulled out.
I guess what I'm saying though is,
Can I
go ahead.
since I'm the one doing the septic system anyway, I full well know that we wouldn't start work for at least 30 days. I could say that we wouldn't start till March, what was it, 18th?
Mhm.
March 18th. So if he wants time to get a survey, I have no problem with that. If he thinks that that's going to change it, but I don't think it
And maybe
is.
what I can do is revise the plans. We'll come back in 2 weeks. In the interim, he can put a silt fence down along the property line from that spike in the tree to the property line. Mr. Seegan can look at it. He can compare his documents. And if he feels if he thinks this is a major error and he's willing to go get a surveyor to go in there, then
That's what I'm saying. If you're willing to get a surveyor to go in
so I think
there,
he's gonna, if he's, because
I'm gonna look at those plans real close again. I already looked at them,
Mhm.
but I'm gonna look at them real close again.
he can look at them again, and we'll come back in 2
If
weeks. and then
it's
he's
if it's
got-
a foot one way or another, I'm not gonna do anything. You know what I mean? It's just that doesn't bother me. But
Okay.
Like I said, if I don't want people driving all over my property. I don't want people in the back of my property driving through with trucks. I don't want it.
I can understand that.
And when the surveyors even came in, they parked all over my property, never even sent me a letter. We're wondering, who the hell is up here now? You know, they got all the cars and vehicles parked on my property doing his survey. Why? You know, I never was called, never was, you should be, I know when a survey goes on your property, they're supposed to tell you. Nobody told me.
Kathleen?
Yes, I'd just like to say that I think what I'm hearing is that there's been a lot of misunderstanding here.
Yeah, they have.
And,
You're hearing it.
And I think that you're a lot closer to understanding each other right now. And I think that if we wait for 2 weeks, you'll have a chance to resolve a lot of these things, because I think some things are harder to deal with when you feel like you're being disrespected. And I think that's what's going on here. And I think that whether a person is disrespected or just feels like it doesn't matter. It has to be, the communication has to be there and there has to be a little trust built up. So I just assumed they came back in 2 weeks. John?
I do have a question. Mr. Segan, do you have a copy of at least of this, so you have the dimensions that you can then work with? For instance, this says 130.
Yeah,
feet.
Mark's secretary
Oh, all right.
emailed
Okay,
me a
perfect.
copy.
So then you kind of know exactly what this is compared to what your original.
Right.
I can see if we have a file, Matt, I think, and review the old plans, we might have them, let me check if that would clarify anything for you.
The big thing that I think what the original mix-up was is when they measured it off of the road, and the pins aren't on the road. They're about 15 feet off the road.
No, I never measured off the road.
It wasn't you, it was one of your sons or
No,
or somebody.
they never measured off.
Regardless,
It's
on that
They know the
property
pins were on
line,
the hill.
I would go with what the licensed professional says. So if Jalbert says this is it, until another licensed professional comes out and says something different,
Right.
I'm going with what Jalbert says.
Yeah, and I'm the last guy that wants to design a septic system that's on somebody else's land.
Right.
does none of us any good.
Doesn't do anybody any
Yeah,
good.
so it just is, so I think we put that, he can go out there, stake, put silt fence down,
Well, there's already a fence that
they're just, and they can both look at it, he compares plans, and
There's a fence on the line now.
Yeah, my
It's a
son
temporary-
Myers
yeah.
just bang. He
They're
put up a
like-
string from post to post and banged in stakes.
And that post to post, that was from
Right there.
what Jalbert
Yep.
had?
Yep.
Okay.
So we'll stay 5 feet off of that. We have no problem. I don't even go up there at all.
Well, you're saying
But-
5 feet, but the system's not going to fit 5 feet off.
Right.
So you're better off telling them you're going right to the line, and then if you're 2 feet off,
Right.
then because you got a little bit of grading in there, and you're going to have some breakout, and so you're not.
Right.
If you're going to go right to the line, just tell them you're going right to the line, and
Well,
that's what I would recommend.
So-
Because if you tell them 5 feet and you go to the line, then it's going to be it's not going to be what you said. John?
So just to clarify here, the post that your son put in here, Mr. Segan, go from Mr. Jalbert's.
Pins.
Surveying
He
pins,
put a piece
right.
of string across Mr. Jalbert's
Right,
pins.
okay. So that's what the surveyor said. It may not be what you think that your other.
No, we went by what's there now.
Right, okay.
We put up the string and the
Okay.
fence.
That's what I thought I heard. Thank you.
So is there a motion to table this till our next meeting?
I'd like to make a motion to table this until our next meeting, and hopefully we can have it resolved by then.
I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we're gonna postpone this. Mark, if you could just add the couple of little
I'll make
amendments.
those changes, and what we'll do is we can re-notify him of the time and
This one.
the time and the meeting.
Okay,
And then we'll just call your office and get a time from them, and then we'll notify him.
okay.
Mr. Segan, you want me to call you in the next meeting, or let you know, or?
Yeah, well, you're gonna send me a notice when the next meeting?
we can see.
Okay.
Send them a
Thank you very
notice,
much.
but
Thank you.
You guys have a
just
good evening.
just so you know, it's gonna be at our next meeting. So, because I don't think we're required to send him another certified mail. He's aware, we're personally telling him.
It's all right, just tell
I'll
me.
leave your
So
card.
we'll let you know. You can-
call- tell me what the
When we get the
meeting is.
time, we'll call you and let you know, and
Yeah, that's fine.
It'll be on our website as well. So,
Okay.
thank
okay.
you.
Thank
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
2 or 3 weeks.
2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
One of the two. Gosh, that's a 54 minutes.
Spencer, you know,
The Whitings are getting more educated about leach fields, septic, setbacks, effluent. Yeah.
In case you want to change.
You could be a professor after all these meetings.
We may just get on the board someday.
That's what I was saying, that's
You're
what,
honorary members already.
seriously,
That's right.
really.
There's an election coming up.
You guys running against a guy named Matt,
Yeah,
your
but-
boss man?
Thank you, keep it.
I can't go against them, I'm signing for them.
I didn't want you to break it, so I moved it.
I'd like to make, I have the January 14th, 2020 minutes. I don't know if somebody can make a motion for us to accept as
Motion to
written.
approve.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
I'll second that. I've read it and I think I've already signed it as
Yeah,
well.
they're all signed. So we have a motion, it's been second, all in favor?
Aye.
So, minutes, January 14th are approved.
Those are additional minutes from the meeting at the DPW.
Okay. I haven't read them yet. John, I don't know if you reviewed that. Is that on
No, I
here
have
at all?
not.
That's on, old business as H-foot road updates?
It's from the, a meeting it was posted, so I had the minutes. I took notes.
No, I know you did. I'm just looking, is that, if
Well,
we
I
talk
wanted to-
about that meeting, at this meeting, would it fall under the H-foot road update?
Could,
I would
That
think
would
so.
be
Yeah,
better in
I
line.
see H-foot roads right here. Yep.
Yeah, I would
Well
definitely.
decommissioned. So you want to talk about it then?
Yeah, we could talk about it, yeah. So you wouldn't sign these anyways, because you weren't at the meeting.
No, I just thought you wanted me to memorize it.
Just take a peek at it.
John Jordan, when did you sneak in?
Said all the time.
He has handled already.
The invisible cloak came off.
Talking to your buddies, the Whitings, and then you don't talk to me.
It will separate so you can.
I was trying to briefly, while we were at the meeting, at least take some notes, so. It was a legal meeting, so.
And those are the minutes, if you want to take a peek at them.
Oh, for the-
It's very brief.
Moving on, we have letters of thank you to Casella for the voluntary water program.
I have a letter pre-drafted. I think there may be some stuff you want to add, Matt, so if you don't mind, I'd like you to take a look at it.
Okay,
And because it's coming from you and the board, that you may want to add some of your own personal touch to it.
okay, so will you send that to me?
Yes,
And then,
I have. I'll send it to you and you make the changes you want.
Okay.
And then we'll officially put it out. I
All
did speak to Tracy. She was at that meeting.
Yeah,
And she,
so, should we table that conversation till our next meeting?
I think it's appropriate, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Is there a motion for that?
Sure, I'll motion that we table that.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to table letter of thank you to Casella. All in favor? Aye. We'll talk about that next time. All right. That, and that. Okay, under old business, we have household hazardous waste day. Kathleen?
Sure, so, we have, thanks to Andrea, and Jim, what are you guys laughing at?
My son's sleeping.
This is a little gentleman suite.
Oh, this stuff. Something I said.
No.
Andrea, made up this flyer, and, also made up little
You want to see the
card
tickets?
vouchers.
Voucher?
We had 100 of them made up,
Awesome.
and, we've already, how many have we given out, Jim, do you know?
The list is right here. We've given out 19.
19, and we'll get the addresses of all the people that are taking one.
I think there's 3 people
right here that would
probably like it too.
And, it saves $30. So,
Yeah, if I had a bunch of household hazardous waste, I probably would.
yeah, but you can take yard waste too.
Yes,
So, so they're all gonna be given out, and we're going to FinCom to make sure we get another $3,000 for next year. These can be used either at the end of March or at the end of June, one or the other. And if we have a tremendous response and they're all gone, then we'll start thinking about asking FinCom for more money. Because this is gonna save us. If we had to run this household hazardous waste day once a year ourselves, it would probably be $10,000, I guess.
Easily.
Easily. So every town around here has a place where you can discard your hazardous waste, and we need that here. We used to be able to take it to Casella, and up until it stopped, there were about 100 cars from Charlton bringing hazardous waste 4 times a year.
you say I can take one of these?
No, you have to, yeah, you have to sign for
You
it.
have to be approved for it.
No, you just have to sign for it.
You
That's
need an
all.
ID
I'll
to
see you
prove
after.
your Charlton
Yeah, you
resident.
can-
I'll
you
see
can-
you
you
after
can-
the meeting.
you can certainly
I
have
may
one.
do it, I'm thinking I probably got enough for
No,
whatever
you
is
can do
considered
it.
half.
And so basically, you figure 4 times a year, there were an average of 100 cars each time. That's like 400, maybe people came back twice, but
Still $400.
Still, and that, once Casella started charging the $30, that was cut in half.
Yeah, that's,
So where do all those people go? And what are they doing with the hazardous waste? Because you can't put it in your trash.
well, you
Can't
can't, you're
bury
not
it.
supposed to.
Yeah, and so we need to give the residents an option to dispose of this stuff that's hazardous.
Yes.
So we're doing that, and we'll see how it goes. We've been advertising it pretty heavily. Went to the selectmen's meeting and told them about it, and we've got on TV advertising it.
And 30 is all you have signed up so far?
19.
19. And there's how many available?
100.
100.
100.
And they'll use it at the end of March or the end of June.
Either
And
or,
we
okay.
just started advertising it about a week ago, so.
Yep, I think people come in and try and pay. I'm going to emphasize that the vouchers are free. It's a free $30 voucher. Taxpayer money, but it's certainly something that the Board of Health had budgeted, $3,000 for Household Hazardous Waste Day. And Kathleen's done a great job, advertising, getting this out, so.
So just to say it out loud on TV,
Yeah, read that.
Household Hazardous Waste Day vouchers available to Charlton residents here at this office. They could also call the Charlton Board of Health and find out more information on it. But basically, you would get a $30 voucher that is good for Saturday, March 28th, Household Hazardous Waste Day, or Saturday, June 27th, Household Hazardous Waste Day. And these vouchers are good for $30 to get rid of household hazardous waste.
Up to 30 pounds, I think, or 25 pounds, did it say that? It's either 25 or 30 pounds.
Okay. So it may not pay for everything that you have, but it will definitely take the sting out of paying for it. And it's the right thing to do when this office has these vouchers. So if you need a voucher, please call Charlton Board of Health or come in and see someone here and we'll sign you up. Jim, what do they need? A valid Charlton?
Just proof of they're a Charlton resident.
Charlton
And
resident.
then we have you sign a sheet, and then we give you the voucher, so.
Kathleen, anything else on that?
No, I'm delighted that we're doing this and hope it works.
Yeah, good.
Thank you, Kathleen and Jim and whoever else was involved.
Andrea did
Andrea?
the flyer and she did them very fast.
Nice
She's
job.
Very efficient.
very
As Kathleen will tell you, she was
Yeah.
had
And
them done.
this will be going, the hope is that we'll continue this next year and the following year and
Yeah, it's a tremendous savings to the town in terms financially and protection of our woodlands and our
Water,
land.
groundwater.
Our groundwater,
Yeah.
yeah.
good.
It's good.
Thank you.
Thank you guys too.
All right. Do we want to discuss transfer station in Southbridge? I heard there was a rumor about it, but I've only heard that rumor through this office, and the rumor I heard was there was nothing to discuss yet. I don't know. Jim, have you heard anything about transfer station in Southbridge?
I haven't heard any updates. I was with Andy the other morning discussing, and he didn't have any updates.
No, nothing coming down the pipeline as far as permits or.
They have a special committee in Southbridge that is working on that 5-year plan when it ends, what they're going to do. So it's really outside the control of the Board of Health, but
We're actually meeting with that committee.
Yep.
The Charlton Sustainability Committee is trying to set up a meeting with Southbridge.
Okay.
They have, we've been in contact with the chairperson of that committee. We're either gonna go there or they're gonna come here.
Have we, or is that the time, but have we ever talked to Southbridge about that and say, hey, this is a rumor, is it true or false? Or do we bring it up at that meeting? Or how do we just
Well,
have something to report on this?
hopefully at that meeting, I've invited them already to our meeting in the Sustainability Committee meeting in March on the 18th.
Yeah?
Here in the Conservation Commission.
Okay,
On this Board of Health meeting.
okay.
And, but certainly you're welcome to come to that because it's all open. And we're gonna just kind of find out what you're doing
Okay.
and see if there's some way we can piggyback or take advantage of their knowledge that they've already done the research on,
Okay.
so we can figure out what we're gonna do.
Okay. John?
So,
Jim? John, you got anything about that?
I was waiting to hear what the board found out about it.
I'm not sure if they have a direction yet. But I
Okay.
think Kathleen can get more information if she meets with that committee,
Right.
and maybe give her more
I
guidance.
do have a question, I'm sorry, if I could just, Jim, you said something about a 5-year plan for, is that when Casella's contract for the removal of Southbridge's trash
Yes.
is over? Okay, so at that point, okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was reading into it. That's why sometime before that point
well, it's
is when they
just-
would think about
It's
it.
just the 5-year plan started a year and a half ago.
Right, so 3.5 years out.
So that's
So
why
there's
we're
still
talking
some time.
now. There's some time, but we don't want to leave it to the last.
Oh, I know.
It goes by fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Look at the months, they fly by like,
And,
know.
and what happens when that happens is we're gonna lose the option of bringing our
Correct.
trash to the Saturday morning drop-off
In
place.
Oxford,
and we'll
In
lose all our
Oxford.
town dumpsters. Well, we'll have
yes,
to,
true.
so.
So it's gonna be a big cost to us.
Well, that and also the potential for Southbridge potentially putting in a transfer station over where
New building.
whatever it is. It's in close proximity to some of the folks here in the audience. And that's when we should be definitely involved for a
That's why I
second.
was digging for information and I received none, so.
Yeah. Okay, so it's on record. Thank you, Jim. Because I haven't heard anything.
No, I haven't.
Very little.
Kathleen, I passed you some minutes a couple of minutes ago. Do you have those? It was the ones Jim had. Did you review them?
Briefly. Why, does it say something?
No, I'm fine with them. I just want to make a motion to accept those minutes while we're here. But I
Right.
wanted to make sure that you,
Okay.
It was
I
very
just- I
vague.
skimmed it, but, I do, this is basically what happened, yeah. It was a
And
very
Kathleen, when
interesting
you're
meeting.
done, if I could just look at that, because
Yeah.
I skimmed it as
These
well.
are the
I
minutes
skimmed-
that I took. As you can see, it was very hard to quickly take some minutes, so I had to cut it down. So
it's fine. That's what minutes
There
are.
were a lot of people at that meeting.
16?
it was very tough to.
Thought it was
And this
good.
is,
There was some guy behind me who kept
14.
poking me. I don't
for
know.
the people in the audience, I don't know, man, I'm sorry if I'm repeating anything, but this is a well decommissioning meeting
15.
that was held on Wednesday, February 12th.
Well, it was specifically decommissioning, but we also talked about the project itself.
Right, okay. Yeah, I see drill bit sizes. Mark Whiting was there discussing well depths, okay.
I have 15 people.
There were
in there.
actually 4 of us were there. John, Mark, Jim, me, and Matt.
Yeah, I just saw Mr. Whiting's name here, and since I see it all the time, I recognize that immediately. And Mr. Gagner.
And he, Mr. Whiting participated with some very interesting information.
Do we want to talk about that, Kathleen?
I don't know if it's appropriate, but
Well, we have the H-Foot Road updates, so
I don't see an issue with it. I mean, if it was part of the meeting, there's nothing that's controversial that you're gonna be bringing up, right? This is more just information, is that right? Based on what I saw?
well, yeah, we called the meeting though. This board was having
okay.
some
All right.
issues.
Yeah, I'm gonna,
it was controversial.
It was
okay,
controversial.
all right. And I'm gonna be quiet, because I wasn't part of that. I don't,
Well, that's why we wanted to talk about it, to bring you up to speed on it.
okay, all right.
Just because you weren't.
'Cause
at
I
the
don't have a
meeting.
problem. I don't have a problem talking about anything.
Well, you will once we finish the talk.
So, Autumn, I'll just do a quick briefing
Okay,
on it.
okay.
We're at the tail end of the water line out there, and decommissioning, as this board was concerned before the bid went out, how the decommission was going to be done with the neat cement and whatnot.
Yep.
Now the steps are going forward as to how the decommissioning is actually coming into play, and it was brought to my attention that some of the things weren't going as they weren't right. They're not necessarily wrong, they just weren't being done 100% right. So we investigated into it. I investigated into it and noticed that some of the well depths were off. They were saying 400 feet. It was 435 feet. There was some conversation, about how many bags of cement need to be put into a well, and if you don't put enough bags in, it's too thin or it's too thick. So there was some in the field, as far as the construction goes, that weren't really adding up, or in my opinion, not saying they were done wrong, but I was questioning whether they were done right. And when since we're at the beginning of this decommissioning process, with 2 or 3 and 4 and 5 wells being decommissioned, I wanted to bring it out. I wanted to get it straightened out to the best of anybody's ability, and I wanted to have that talk at the beginning of this process, not at well number 89 or at the end of the process. And then somebody say, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" So there was some discussion as to what basically, and I represented the board, and I witnessed some of these things, and so Jim has witnessed some of these things. So there was some discussion as to what our concerns were. We had the company that was doing the decommissioning present at this meeting, and basically we went back and forth over the table. I said what I didn't like. He basically came back with corrective action and maybe why he thought it was a certain way, and we kind of tried to hash this all out. So moving forward, these things are being done as best as possible. And so that's basically what the meat and potatoes was of this meeting. I feel as though it was a pretty productive meeting. At the end, I think we saw the light as far as moving forward. Now they know that we're watching them. So
I thought Jim was maybe not out there all the time, but overseeing some of this.
Jim was
as a
there
witness.
I was there.
10 times more than he wanted to be.
Well, my concerns were Matt's concerns, so I talked to Matt and I said, Matt, we should, as Matt discussed, we should stop now and have a meeting. So I had them stop and discuss these issues before they're on well 89, and now you don't bring up the issues, especially with the depths, the amount of neat cement, the bentonite. We had all kinds of questions.
Okay.
So we wanted to make sure that we were accurate, they were accurate, and there were no questions later that they weren't properly decommissioned. So we did the right thing. We told them to stop and had a meeting. So
Well-
that's what we did.
This thing was a multi-million-dollar project, right? So we don't want groundwater down that 300, 400, 500 feet, allowing to be put up in somebody else's well because it's not decommissioned properly, because it will actually use it as a channel to get up and then find another aquifer and head out 300 feet and continue to contaminate.
Right.
It's very important for Casella, the town of Southbridge, the residents of Charlton, everybody that's been part of this whole thing, that we're at the last step and it needs to be done right. And in my opinion, as well as other opinions, it was not being done right. And so we had to stop it until we had an understanding that it was going to be done right moving forward. So I think we were relatively productive on it. I think going forward it's going to be, I'm not a well guy, you know what I mean? So Jim's not a well guy. So he can come out, he can witness, he can see it. But at the end of the day, if you're not an expert in that field, so they use not enough bags of cement, or you know what I mean. There's different things that had happened, and we just wanted to get it straightened out. So
I stood out there today also. I stood out there for hours and hours. Along with, remember, Ty and Bond is also there.
Mhm.
Supposed to oversee. They're the professionals as well, decommissioner. I think Chris McClure is an engineer on the project also. He's not in the field during the decommissioning. But today, Dave Wall was there today all day. I was there. When you have 600 feet of twine to measure, we're stretched all the way down the road and measure it. It was cold. It's done, but there was some questions. He couldn't get all the way to the bottom. It's not as easy as dropping it down. He got hung up, so he finally. But rest assured that they did do some, and we had some discrepancies. But I think Matt explained one of them on that. It was 54 Flint Road with 607 feet. We have listed 300, but
we have it listed 300.
But
But
there's
if
an explanation
if we
later.
read,
Yeah.
we read into that well report, you'll see where it did come
I
up
think
to
when we
600.
accumulated and we put the data together, we just grabbed the number off there, and we probably should have read a little further down the rest of the.
Yeah, because that's the one I think I said it's a discrepancy, but I believe that it's in our office.
But they know their Bay State. Andy, who's the owner, was at the meeting. He knows that he benefits in no way or shape or form by trying to shortcut or do anything, and that he's being watched, and that we want it done correctly. That's all.
Yeah. One of the things that concerns me in moving forward, because I know we have a lot more decommissions going forward, was so as this thing was unfolding, as far as the permitting process goes, we didn't give him 2 permits or 3 permits or 4 permits. He had all of them go. I think that moving forward, we don't give them all at once. I think we need to limit and say, here's 5, go do your 5.
He has to. Each one he's done is not properly decommissioned until the construction company, Ludlow, goes back, digs up, cuts the pipe, and closes it, levels it, and sees it. So, in order for him to properly send the paperwork in that this well is decommissioned, only one who can sign is Andy, but Andy's not doing the whole job.
Right.
Ludlow's taking over, and that won't be done till later. We only gave him copies. We did all the paperwork in house because we wanted to make sure the lot number. If we're going to give him all these numbers, we might as well put it on a piece of paper and fill out the application and have him sign it, because we were relying on him to get the information on the paperwork. So this office spent more than half a day,
I'm sure,
doing all the paperwork and research. So the girls worked hard on it. I did give him copies of all of it because he's responsible. So if he's lied or done anything, it's his reputation, it's his signature, and he has to record that with the DEP. But it can't be done until Ludlow says we've finished, and then Andy will sign the paperwork, give it back to me, and then we'll log it. We'll keep a copy in the folder for that house.
Yeah. John?
What's gonna be done to address the wells that weren't done properly?
Well, I don't know what we can do about them. I mean, we're not going to make them go drill them out and do them over, and we're not necessarily so sure they weren't done properly, because some of the discussions were, if a well has just say 500 feet of depth, there's supposed to be a certain number of bags of cement used to do that. But there was talk that maybe, those wells weren't 6 inches all the way down. Maybe they used a smaller bit and they were 5 inches all the way down. And if that's indeed the case, then the number of bags might have been correct. But it's not, I wasn't buying it that they was a 6-inch well and somebody pulled out and put a 5-inch bit down and do it. I don't believe that's what happened. I believe it was a 6-inch well all the way down, at least to 400 feet,
But there's other mitigating circumstances.
There was other things they were talking about. There was some type of, I don't know, scum or some type of stuff that could have been on the side of the walls. There was,
How much water
there
they
was,
used and how much
yeah,
other stuff.
So, and that's why we were trying to, out of the gate, make sure it was right. The first one that was done, I don't feel it had enough bags of cement in it. I know Jim did go back to it. It appears to be hot as a rock, but does it meet the code? I couldn't tell you. I think that one was too soupy out of the gate, and we tried to address that
It was
right
like
away.
76 bags and the recommendation was 110, something like that.
Yeah, one was supposed to be, depending on the method, but one was supposed to be 120 bags. The engineer, Ty and Bond said, no, it's going to be 104 bags, but then it was 78 bags.
Right.
That's when I had a problem with that, saying, why is the bag count off? They're using too much water. So now it went back to, what's your method of measuring the water? Is it a meter? Maybe the meter's not working. But that's not what they said. They said they're doing 4 bags at a time, and they have a tray, and they have a mark that's welded, and they're putting 22 gallons of water in that. And our regs and the state regs say 5 to 6 gallons of water per bag, and then they allow a little bit more water for bentonite. They're allowing 2% of the bentonite in there. So if you kind of do all the math, but bottom line is we don't want it too soupy. We want it to be as thick as we can be. And I think it was a little bit too soupy coming out of the gate. And some of the stuff, John, that was in question was about the depths of the wells. And I had a problem with that. So they went out and measured a well at 400 feet, and they said it's 435 feet. So it's like, why are they saying it's 435 feet? I witnessed 6 wells. 5 of the 6 were inaccurate. So, and then the 6th one was still off by 8 feet, but we gave them that one.
It
So-
depends on what they're using to measure it too.
So they're saying, you know, the rope had some elasticity to it, and it was these different factors. I don't know how much of that I was buying because I wasn't actually buying any of it. So I just tried to let them know that we're watching you. Ty and Bond went out and they said, "Oh yeah, it's 5." They measure the well. They come out and they go, "It's 520 feet." That was the first one they were gonna go and grout. So I went down the night before they grouted it and witnessed it. It was 500 feet. It's like, well, how did they were right there in front of the engineer and they came up with 520 feet? But I just saw it with my own 2 eyes. It's 500 feet. So how is that? So what are they doing? They're measuring it, then they turn around and they're telling the engineer how deep it is. Is he
The
actually?
engineer's accepting.
He's accepting what they're telling him for a number.
He's probably not remeasuring.
He's not really, you know. He's just this is what it
So
was.
how many wells are done now?
Jim would know better than I. 7, 8?
7, but one's not done.
One they had a problem.
One had a problem, and I think you approved that they could use the certain bentonite crystals or bentonite.
Yeah, for I think 20 feet.
Yeah, and then they would be able to. The first well that was done, they were using too much water. Chris McClure argued that it was probably better to have too much than not enough because it fills in all the cracks and crevices.
Right.
So he filled see that coffee cup he
Yeah,
had?
he set it around a coffee cup and it was hard. It was hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I mean,
so that
stuffing
was
it
the argument.
hard.
But what do you say? When it's spilling over the top, they keep going and going for a while until it gets thicker.
Right.
And now when I see it, learning from standing there, is that it actually is coming out thicker because we've had them cut back. They know they're being watched. And today, Ty and Bond actually physically assisted in the measurements.
Okay, good.
That's good.
So it's not that they just took his word for it. I was there when they pulled it out. Dave actually measured it. So it's not, he was just taking his word. He was there all day and made sure through Ty and Bond, who's the engineer of record of the project, that it was what he thought was adequate and what the person from Bay State Well and Drilling was measuring, and that the rope was adequate and that it was done properly. So he was there for that. It was a cold day, it was starting to snow, but we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in question measured again. And I was there, and especially at 54, 607 feet. I feel that he, you know, whether he hit something, whatever, you don't, like you said, you can't see down that far, you don't know. But certainly when he came down, he held up, and it was consistent, and Dave was happy with it.
Yeah, and I think you'll see in our records that was a typo. This was probably a cut and paste as far
Yeah.
as the well report, because if you read the language in that one in particular, it does talk about 600 feet afterwards.
Yeah, and it's, you know, that's a deep well, but it's certainly, that's a lot of line to measure. We were down
Oh, yeah. So then,
the road.
John, what happened was after 5 out of the 6 that I personally witnessed were inaccurate, we then went and got all the well reports that this office carried, and I compared it to the well depths that their team went out and measured, and I came up with 9 more that were conflicted. Not saying the well reports are right, I'm just saying what they said and what our office has is in conflict. So that's the ones that Jim did today?
Today.
Yeah, and even out of those, we still got 35 feet off, 40 feet off, and so, you know, it was like, but the whole thing that's important about that is you need to know how deep the well is, because once you know how deep the well is, now you know how many bags it's going to take to do this decommissioning. If you don't have the right number of bags of cement in there, it could be too loose, and that's not what the code is, and it's very important that it's as thick as it's supposed to be. So that's what was going on.
All right, so I've got a few questions. These wells all have water in them, right?
Yes.
So that, you know, once whatever they're measuring with, what do they have for a weight on the bottom?
This thing
Lead
was a heavy
seekers.
lead. It looked like a lead. It keeps the rope in the middle. It weighed probably 5 pounds, whatever.
Okay.
It was heavy.
I went around with what I like to refer as Citizens Patrol, and we had a pipe wrench that was heavy, 5-6 pounds.
Yeah, it was at least.
It was
5
going
pounds.
down. It's like fishing.
Yeah.
They keep going down,
Yeah.
going down, and then you get to the bottom, and you know you're on the
It
bottom.
looked like a giant plumb bob, where the rope came out the center of this one, so it stayed
Okay.
So it didn't go out down at an angle.
Mhm.
It stayed dead center, so they, in case they hit something.
Yep,
And
So-
then they taped it so they didn't lose it.
right. And then you pull it up and you measure it.
I'm wondering if some of the discrepancy isn't just either the well depth maybe wasn't recorded properly in the first place, or it may have been drilled that and then the pump was set in, like my well.
Mhm.
My well is, I think, 120 feet, and then the well pump was set at 105 feet. And then when the pump was replaced the second time, the Charlton well came out and they said, look, you're still getting silt in there. I'm gonna pull the pump up another 5 feet, so you'll be at about 100 feet or maybe 95 feet, whatever.
In this case, all the well pumps had been removed.
Right,
So there was
right.
no well pumps in there.
Right.
And,
So you just got a straight pipe.
Yep.
And you're just going down.
yeah,
And then, but the reports in this office will say the well depth is X amount, and that was what, from the
From the
person who
original
pumped the
well driller. In this
Right.
case, it was Dave Gem, I think, who did Eleanor Lane.
yeah, well, I think Wentworth was the actual
Yes.
driller,
Yep.
John Wentworth, but at Eleanor, it was Gem Builders at the time, they, all except for one, I think.
But we don't go out and verify that they're.
No, I
We go
realize
with them.
that, I'm just
But-
trying to think.
But what the conflict was the guy that decommissions the well, the guy that's in the field now doing the decommissioning, part of his process is he needs to measure the wells.
Right.
And as he's measuring the wells, he has a list of well depths as he's recorded them. Then I go out and with Citizens Patrol to witness what's going on, and I remeasure the same wells he did, and every one was basically 10% off. We had a 300-foot well that he had listed as 340 feet. We had a 400-foot well that he had listed at 435 feet. We had a 500-foot well that him and Ty and Bond witnessed because I started stomping my feet, wondering why the numbers were off. So they had Ty and Bond and him witness it. And I went out and measured that one, and that was 500 feet. But they had done it that day at 520. So I said, what's going on here? So we're, and again, the whole thing is we want to know how deep it is so you have the right bag
Right,
count.
yeah.
And at the meeting, and I, just because it kind of got me a little ticked off, but the well driller at that particular case didn't really seem to bother him. He said, so it's off 40 feet, so what? And then I said, so what? You're right, but then don't you have to submit that? So what's that? Falsifying public documents? And yeah, it is. So I kind of, the one he was off 8 feet on, okay, you're off 8 feet, close enough. Maybe the rope stretched a little, maybe 8 feet I'll give you, but 30 feet, 40 feet, that shouldn't be that far off. My concern was if this guy can't measure wells properly, how's he going to start decommissioning properly? That was my concern out of the gate. And so moving forward, the first well he decommissioned, the water, it was like water. It was very, very loose and nowhere near the right mixture that's by code. So then we had to stop it. We had to have a talk and a discussion and get it straightened out. And then now we got the next one. We tried to get the volumes right, but now the bag count was off. So even though we felt we were on track, the bag count wasn't adding up. So that we're just trying, and it's not an exact science, but we're off, 20-30%, and
That's a lot.
that seemed to be a lot. So we're, in the well driller's defense, he believes that some of those wells were 5-inch holes, not 6-inch holes. Maybe 6-inch for the first, casings, but then all of a sudden they dropped to 5 inches. I don't know, and that's why I said at that point, well, we could go find out and see if it's a 6-inch hole or a 5-inch hole. You do the same test. You just take something a little bit bigger and see how far it goes down. But that was all in Eleanor Circle, and the majority of those had been decommissioned by that point.
Because I said to him, I said, you're supposed to have 104 bags, you only did 80. He says, do you want me to dump another 10 bags on the ground? And I said, no, but certainly it's not matching up. He said, well, let's let it settle and we'll come back. Well, he added more to it. He said it was only 12 feet. It was 12 feet after he added something.
After he added, it was
Yeah.
like 30 feet. One of the
I
wells had
videotaped
settled.
it.
Yeah,
It was down more than 12, I know 12 feet.
Right.
So it was,
and we had a little conflict. Mark,
So-
I just wanna add to that, one of the reasons why I was there and we had the concern is, if you don't have the right mixture and it's too wet, the whole reason, I think a lot of people in the area are figuring that decommissioning of the wells is so that us, the homeowners, cannot reuse the well. That's not the case. The decommissioning of the wells is to stop the plume from moving, to stop the contamination from going further. And if you're adding way too much water, what's happening is, the reason why it's dropping is it's being washed. What's down below that's supposed to be sealing that off, it's all water and it's just being washed away. Stuff up above will eventually along the line harden, but everything else down below is gone. The water is still flowing. Yes, we can't go down into the well and use the water, but it didn't do what it's intended to do, is stop the flow of water, and that's why it dropped 20, 30 feet down, because everything below, that's how much, it washes out until it finally, it's gotta be thick and it's gotta be done properly so that it seals everything up. Part of the problem with not enough bags of cement too is, like you said, it's not an exact science. There are voids and there are seams that they hit all the way down. It doesn't mean they all have water. Some of them are empty. You gotta wait until you hit the water. Or some have very little water and they go deeper and deeper until you get enough volume to make the water for the code. So as you fill these up, say it's supposed to 104 bags for 600 feet, he even said himself he brings 20% more, because a lot of times what happens is you hit voids or it goes into the seams. So as they fill it up, you're losing cement into it. So 104 bags can turn into 114 bags or 106 or whatever. Depends on the voids and the seams. So when you're doing, it's supposed to be technically 104 and you're only doing 70 or 80, that's a huge red flag. It should go the other way. And my whole aspect of, with the measuring of the wells, you got a 600-foot well, you can have a lot of stretch. Well, I look at it in two ways. One, if you got a stretch like a rubber band, the deeper it goes, the more weight it stretches. Well, when you pull the line, the hole depth is the hole depth. Once it hits bottom, and you're at bottom, and you mark that rope at the top of the well, and you pull it out, if it stays stretched, it's going to be, a 400-foot well is still going to have 400 feet, not 440. And if it's like a rubber band and it stretched as it went down, once you pull it out, it should contract, meaning now a 400-foot well, you only got 380 feet of line because it stretched 20 feet. His numbers were the opposite way. You just can't do that. How do you have more wire or more string in a line than the hole is deep? Stretching should go the other way from what he's saying. So everything he's saying is backwards. And I know he says about tapering down. I'm not a well driller. I've been on well drillings. I was not the driller. I don't know everything that goes on, but I do know, talking to well drillers and everything, a 6-inch hole is easier to drill than a 5-inch or a 4-inch. No one does 4-inch because drill rods are 4.5. I guess there are some companies that have 3.5 drill rods, but they're very rare. Everyone uses the other ones. Maybe they do it for certain places, certain things, or their machine isn't strong enough because that's a lot of weight. So the amount of time it takes to strip those steel rods, they're 20-foot sections. If you go down 400 feet, and then you're gonna strip out 400 feet, 20 feet at a time, put on a 5-inch hammer, go down 400 feet again, meaning putting 20, you're talking hours of labor. He said that they could be doing this to save money. There's no cost savings in spending several hours of stripping out a hole and going back down with a small, it's unfeasible. You're not gonna do it.
It wasn't adding up.
It's not adding up, and then he says, well, maybe they did it right from the beginning, And my comment to him was, if they're doing that, they're falsifying records. It's lying to the homeowner because you sign a contract for a 6-inch hole. Most well contracts are 20 feet of casing, 400 feet of drilling. If you gotta go more casing, it's X amount of dollars per foot. If you gotta go deeper, whatever. But that's your average. So you're lying to the homeowner, and like Matt says, it's gonna be reported to the state. You're lying to the state, you're looking at losing your driller's license. Nobody's gonna do that. And like I've heard from many drillers, no one's gonna drill with a 5-foot hammer, or a 5-inch hammer, excuse me, because it's a lot easier with a 6-inch. So if you're doing it for cost effectiveness and speed, you're gonna do it with a 6-inch. You're not gonna do it with a 5-inch. Every time we go to a well site to drill, they know the area and the average depth. Like if they're coming up to our road, they know you're looking at probably a 400 footer or deeper. Going in, you're gonna go with either a new bit or a fairly brand new bit because you know you're gonna have to drill deep. If you're at an area where you know the average well depth is 150, 200 feet, you can go in there with a smaller bit. They might, you know, they're not gonna be, might not be a 6-inch, but it might be, you know, I don't know, 5 3/4, 5 5/8, because they know. So if that happens where they thought it was going to be a couple 100 feet difference, and it ends up being a 400-foot well, and then they have to drop down because you do have to go with a smaller bit. You can't go bigger. So, and you can only go so small with a 6-inch. So that's an extreme case. You do what you got to do when you have to, but they're not going to do it every single hole. And they're not going to drop down, like I said, an inch at a time. Not going to go from a 6-inch to a 5-inch, from a 5-inch to a 4-inch. If they're drilling, they go 400 feet, and something happens to the bit, and they got to strip out, they measure the bit. And if that bit is 5 7/8 big, they will find they have many bits on the rigs. And they're going to find something that's the exact same size, or close to it. Instead of 5 7/8, it might be 5 3/4 or 5 13/16. They take a measurement and then they go and find another bit that's close. They're not gonna take, well, we pulled this one out, it's 5 7/8 big, it broke, let's put in a 5 1/2. You don't do that. You don't, and that's kind of what he was getting across, that, oh, these things are tapered, like, that doesn't happen. It's not cost effective. No one's going to do that, and they're not going to lie to the state because they're looking at losing their license on doing it.
As this whole thing unfolded, I ended up on it was a Facebook well drillers forum, and I was going through all the different decommissioning practices, and I was into it there pretty deep for a while, trying to make sure these things were being done properly, and the reason why and why it was so important. So I understood what Mark just said. If he lost you, what he said made sense, and I understand what he was saying. But I've also I've heard it a couple of times in the explanation of what he just said, so I understand it. But bottom line is, I do think that we have that situation under control as best we can from being aboard, and I felt like we shouldn't just go ahead and give 90 well permits for the decommissioning and then say, give them back when you're done. But I understand what Jim's saying too. These things are happening in phases. So phase 1, they pull the pumps, he needs the permit for that. Now they're doing the grouting, but then after they have to cut the casing, backfill, and all that. So I do understand. Logistically, yeah, it does make sense to give them what they need so they can, use it as a project. Because we have all ExxonMobil coming up. There's probably, another 200 wells coming?
Yes.
So, it's and it's in our lap because that's a plume we don't want to spread either, So,
maybe Advantage Enterprises could branch out and do well decommissioning too in town.
Advantage cuts trees. That's enough. Yeah. So I think we have a good grip on it. I know, Jim, you're still in the field looking at it. Kathleen was at the meeting. It seemed like we all got an understanding of what this board is trying to come across and have done, and
I think they got the message,
I
Yeah,
think they
it
got the
sounds
message.
like it. Good.
loud and clear.
And it's subject to spot checking at any time.
Yep.
So, because one of my things was about the water. You know, well, how you testing the water? You know, just because your meter says it's X amount of gallons, what is it? You know, that might not be accurate. You know, but his method, I bought it. He said he's got a line welded in the pan, and he fills it up, and then when he gets to that line, it's 22 gallons, and he does 4 bags of the wax, so it's 5.3 bags or whatever.
Yep.
5.3 gallons a bag. So, John.
Before we go off H-foot, I still had one more question, not about wells though, so when we get to that point.
Go ahead.
We still have a water runoff issue around 24 H-foot, and it's creating a lot of ice. Today there's a lot of ice all along the shoulder. I know it's there, it's not a big deal to me. I know some neighbors are probably more upset about it than I am, but my daughter's starting to drive, and believe me, you don't want to be on the road if she's on the road.
Especially with ice.
And if there's ice there, it's not going to be good. And it's been a constant issue during the warmer months. The water runs off around that turn, and colder months it all ices up a few feet into the road.
I'm sure Highway knows about it, but maybe we should reach out to Highway and
I'll reach out to Jerry tomorrow. There's a couple areas I saw with some, someone dumped some cabinets and stuff. I'm going to talk to him anyway, see if he can, if he hasn't picked them up already, that he can pick those up. I'll go up and I'll mention to Jerry. I was at a meeting with him this morning. It was on the pump stations. It wasn't on.
Okay. Wasn't on trash disposal on H-foot Road?
No.
Oh.
No.
And the road has a year warranty, right? With
Yes.
Ludlow. That's why I want to bring it up before the year's up, that they should be fixing that.
That's
At
that's
expense to the town.
that's 1 year after finishing the project, I believe.
Okay, so we still got time.
Yep.
Yeah, there was question though as to the start time of that warranty.
Yeah, it was kind of the.
If it was in phases or different things
You're right, because they've got a long ways to go.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly when that warranty is up,
I'll
so.
find out, John. And I'll let the
Mark?
chairman know.
Two things real quick. You said they did a well today,
They did the 5.
a 500 footer. Was there a count on bags that were used in that well?
No, they only measured it.
They only, okay,
There
so
was
they
no
didn't.
decommissioning today.
Okay, that's all I want.
Yeah.
That's all I want to know on that.
Too cold and too wet. They can't decommission. There's no cover. If it's raining, they can't even work.
Right. Okay. I know they were originally scheduled to, and it didn't rain until later in the afternoon, so I didn't know if they actually tried or.
If
or
it starts to
didn't
pour,
happen.
no. Today was only measurements to make sure that the depths were set, and those are the concerns. If they're going to decommission, they have to call me in the morning and let me know. I'd like more time than that, but it's all weather dependent also, because if we're going to have bad weather, they're not going to be out there. It's just not feasible for them. If the bags get wet, it's not.
I'm just curious as to now with people watching and measuring and everything, so when they get a well, how much is actually being used now compared to what?
I videotape, they log all the bags. All the bags are written down on each application and permit that we give them. The bag count is on there. We want to know how many bags, the depth, and the amount of water used. So that's going to be placed on each one of them.
Okay.
So they keep count of the bags. They put them in bags of 5, and then I take pictures, and they put the bag count down. So Andy goes 5, 10, 15, 20, and the count is done.
Okay.
So nothing is, we don't want, and I videotape the first 5, I videotaped at the end, in the beginning, and took pictures of all of them.
Are they making like copies of that? Like, is it public knowledge where if they do, like, say another 5, 10 more wells, that there would be a list where we could get a list just to compare?
You'll get the list only when it's been properly decommissioned and Andy signs off on it, then it's
Okay.
been, Andy's the only one that can sign. Ludlow, like Matt said, Ludlow's still gonna cut the pipes, they're gonna grade it down, they're gonna level it, and then when that's done, that's the only way it's properly decommissioned.
Right, right. But I didn't know.
Until then, I told Andy, don't bother, but Andy's keeping track, and he has a log. I can send you the log that Andy sends me with the bag count and the water and everything for the addresses, and I'll send it over to John. He can mail it over, I'll send it directly to you.
Can I also make a request? I guess it's public knowledge.
Yep.
Of certified payroll. The certified payroll that they're doing, if we can get a copy of their payroll certified payroll
Payroll for the project, I mean, the ending balance, or?
for the
Decommissioning.
decommissioning. Because it's public knowledge, we just want, I'm just
I don't know anything about that, but I'll
trying
ask.
to get whatever we can for our records.
Basically,
Just to
this
have-
office, and they did that when we were doing the landfill through Jay Bates. Somebody requested that, and we got that from Jay Bates. So we would reach out to Ludlow and request their certified payroll for the,
I'll reach out to Heather. Heather should have that, and
Okay.
she's in charge of the, and see if she can get that for me. If not, I don't want to bypass her, because
yeah,
she's supposed to.
you're right.
And ask her if she could get that information to me. I'll do it in an email, under the Freedom of Information request, she's gonna have to provide it.
Right, because it's a state job, it's just for record keeping. And
I will send Heather an email that a Charlton resident has requested the certified payroll for the decommission. Could you please forward it to me? Period.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Do we have anything else for H Road? If not, I'm gonna move forward. Do we?
I have one other thing on Eastwood
Sure.
Road. I've been on Eastwood Road, Eleanor Lane, quite often.
Mhm.
There's been some break-ins, and I've been stopped by the police because someone called the police on me because I pulled over to make a phone call. Just want to let the residents know that if they're watching that my white Subaru is my vehicle I use for inspections, and that's me. I go back and forth 5, 6, 7 times a day. I had pulled over so I could make a call because I didn't have the number, so I wasn't driving, even though I have Bluetooth. And then next thing you know, I'm surrounded by police.
I do
So-
think there's more to that story. I think in that particular area, it's a common pullover spot. Must be easy to get off to the side.
Well, I found out, so.
Because I think that one of the residents that live there have been getting headlights shined into their house. And
Mhm.
so I'm on like this neighborhood digest thing, and I was reading some of the different things of what was going on, and that was, the break-ins were one, but then the headlights and the light in the house were
I
another.
don't go there at night, but it's certainly, I go to Treehouse, do an inspection, and then I back around. So
Yeah.
I'm in that area a lot, but I just want to let people know
There's
that.
been break-ins all over. I saw there was another one
Yeah,
on
I-
McIntyre Road.
Yeah, I saw that.
So they know my car when they called it in, but they still made it known that, but I'm not there, I'm there on behalf of the town of Charlton, so.
Do we have anything to discuss on Flint Road? I'm good.
We've,
Kathleen?
No, I don't.
John?
good.
Nothing?
Jim? All right, moving on. Then we're gonna discuss the LNG updates, if anything.
I haven't heard boo, and I suspect when the determination does come down from the state siting board, it'll be all over the newspapers, whatever is decided.
They'll
and
probably
I
be
can't
at the news
recall.
safe before we even get the paperwork.
Yeah, I'm sure, oh, yeah, sure.
But I haven't, anything I gotta send directly to John, since he's on the committee, it's for him, but all it is legal jargon the last time.
Yeah.
It's nothing that's yay or nay, or it's just the objections from the 3 boards, or concerns, I should say.
If there's nothing there, we're gonna move on to, is there any other business unknown at the time of posting? I've got nothing.
No?
All right, Jim, before, well, you can do your department head results. I'll give you right back. I'm not going far.
I just,
See you, John.
Kathleen and I went before, just wanted to bring you up to date that we did go before the selectmen. They asked us about triple E spraying and what the board's view was on spraying mosquitoes in Charlton.
I thought this was a state mandate.
It's not a state mandate, it's more of a decision of the town selectmen that if they decided it'd be $121,877. I did call the mosquito. I'm trying to work on grants and work on things to get rid of the tires and stuff that would cause the issues. So we've actually, through the new town administrator, developed a hoarding task force so we can help mitigate and get rid of the standing water that's going to be an issue, rather than an outright spray of the town of Charlton that is an astronomical amount. And organic crops would no longer be organic, and there'd be situations where it's an agricultural community that they suspect that there may be issues. So I think they wanted to, I think Karen Spiewak and Bill Borowski are both concerned, as well as every other board selectman. But Kathleen and I were asked the question, how does the board feel? We're always there to protect the public health and interest, but spraying is not a cure-all. This is an agricultural community, and I think there are other things that we can do to, especially like spraying your own, wearing proper clothing, spraying yourself, and stay indoor on activities. Because even if they spray and spend that kind of money, it's not going to be a cure-all for Charlton, and they still may have issues. So we're working, and I know Karen has worked on stuff, and I've called the mosquito control program. You can only opt in, it's full opt-in, and that comes out of the monies that are given from the state directly to the town of Charlton. So,
Yeah, I
Kathleen?
just wanted to say, the discussion revolved around whether $100,000 should be appropriated right now by the town to possibly spray, and then that was Bill's suggestion. It did get a lot of support because I probably have to lay off a couple of people, but basically what Karen suggested was that she would like this Board of Health to discuss it and come back with a recommendation. So whether we wanted to have the town put aside $100,000 to spray, or whether we didn't, how we felt about it, because it's a health issue. And personally, the way I feel about it is that I just as soon wait and let the state possibly take care of it, because I think they plan to, and I think if we put aside the money, they may say, well, you take care of it. So I'd just as soon not put aside the money. We do have, I know FinCom has a slush fund. It's over $100,000. It could be dug into if there was an emergency. So I'm just inclined to let it ride. We could put it on the agenda for the next meeting and have a full-fledged discussion on it.
Why don't we do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
might not be a bad idea, because I can see it going both ways. One way or another, I'd like to see either the money appropriated or some sort of not a guarantee, but maybe an assurance from the state that they would step in like they did last summer and do the aerial spraying.
Well, I think the selectmen did want, my impression was they did want to hear back from us.
They did.
Yeah.
So,
And that's why I just
So
mentioned-
that we should vote on it, but
Okay.
we should discuss it first, and I don't think we're prepared to do it right now.
No.
No, I'll get some more information for the board. I'm doing some work behind the scenes, and I just wanted to bring it up into my announcements that
It seems to me it's really coming down to, are you pro spraying or are you not for the pro spraying? Because every action has a reaction.
Yep.
So yeah, if you spray and you're doing your best effort to mitigate triple E, that's fine. But what does that spray do to
The bees.
the bees and or
yeah,
the crops
organic.
or the other things? And then the money part of it, the laying off of the, I don't know anything about that. I'm not even getting involved in the money. That's not our department.
No.
I'm more concerned about, is spraying the right thing to do or not? And you look at all those schools that weren't doing their sports, or they're losing out on that sport time because of the curfews.
Yep.
And that right there was kind of making me kind of lean for, we need to do everything that we can, maybe as a board, to try and help that. So, the sports can go forward. So, Jim,
the schools have already opted out, right, Kathleen?
Yeah.
They don't want spraying.
the schools do not want
They-
spray.
No.
And this is an opt-in program. That means you'd have to get permission.
If the town did it,
Okay,
but if the state does it, it's a different story.
right.
So.
So how does that work?
And in fact, different people could opt out, and it's crazy because then you can't contain this stuff.
No.
Yeah. So how does that work with the schools? If the schools opt out, but the board says we want to spray,
It's up to it's in the hands of the selectmen when it comes to this decision. They want recommended by the board is public health, safety, and environment. I, as the health director, have done research on this, and there are a lot of people that are not for this, and there are a lot of people that are really want it done.
right?
But if you have an opt-in only project and the schools have already opted out, it's like taking $121,877 and throwing it out the window, because it may involve some of the property, but it's not all. And how do you notify each property owner that we're going to spray? Do we have your permission? It's a logistical nightmare.
So-
So the state doesn't need it. They're just going to come in and spray.
If they opt out, that means we wouldn't spray over the schools.
they've already opted out according, right,
Well,
Kathleen?
We'd be going around in a truck, I think. But
Yeah.
the thing is, the state does it from the air, and the trouble with going around in the truck is then you do get the bees.
Yep.
Kill them. But if
Okay.
you do it from the air, then it doesn't, because they're inside. So,
Okay.
but I think we're just spinning our wheels here because
put it on
we
the
don't-
next
we-
agenda.
We really need to
I'll get
talk
some more
about it.
information.
And I appreciate the Board of Selectmen asking for our advice on this, because it is a health and safety issue.
Yeah, I guess I just assumed they were gonna spray. I didn't realize they drove around in trucks. I thought
No,
I
it's
thought it was
trucks.
aerial.
Well, the state is, it's aerial.
I know the
Same
state
as
was, and
aerial.
that's what I thought. If we decided to do it, we would do aerial. I didn't realize it was they drive around with a truck.
Well, because some people walked out.
That's a lot of, I mean, there are tracks, if you go from my house to the end of the street and then go over to the North Sturbridge Road up towards the Spencer line, it may not be a half mile of woods, but how the heck would you even get a truck? You know, yeah, you can do up and down and go either sides of the street and spray, but there's no way it's gonna get that far into the woods, and God only knows what kind of pools of water and whatever are back there. I don't see how, well, that's a discussion for another time.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to bring up, Jim, can you please confirm, we did have one Charlton resident that died from, was it Triple E last year?
I
We
believe
did,
so.
but it turns out
I
he was.
can't confirm that.
Okay.
And
All right, all right, so strike that.
I think I can't discuss it.
Okay, but we do know that there were deaths of Massachusetts residents from Triple E last year.
Yes, four.
Okay,
Yep.
there we go. All right,
Yep.
just so for the record.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
I hope you can respect that. I can't.
No, that's fine. I'm sorry. I probably
Nope.
shouldn't have brought it up because I had read somewhere
But
that.
actually, it's a friend of mine, so I know who it was.
Okay. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
We're gonna say Corona.
I keep telling
I've-
people we're going on the cruise, 'cause we're going on our
I've
holistic
been,
health cruise. Everybody says, you're going on the cruise, you're gonna get coronavirus. Well, how am I gonna get coronavirus? Because there's thousands of cruises going on all over the world, but it shows the way the news gets so blown out of proportion, because 2 cruise lines in Asia were stopped, so now I'm going on a cruise to the Caribbean, out of Miami, and there's no cases down there,
Yeah.
Well, there
and I'm
won't-
gonna catch, you know.
You're probably going to be on a nearly empty ship, dare I say. No, or is it
No,
booked
it's
solid?
not. That's what my point is that it's like an airplane crashes so that nobody takes any more airplanes.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, it's this right now. There's hundreds. I don't know how many cruises there are in the world going on, but there's
Thousands.
thousands. And unless you're in Asia, if I was going to Asia, I might feel differently. about
Right,
it.
yeah.
But,
Hey, well,
but the
I-
coronavirus in general, in what I read this morning was that a terrible thing it was in Cambodia,
Mhm.
where the president let them all off the ship, and they
Yep.
said they were fine, and nobody could wear masks. He didn't let them wear masks. And then they find out that one of the people that they let off this ship, of hundreds of people, in fact tested positive. And so at least when they come home to this country, they do get quarantined for 2 weeks,
Yep.
I believe. So,
That's a tough deal.
I've been on a lot of conference calls for the coronavirus. The state is prepared. Town of Charlton is prepared as we can be. Through the region, we've got masks, gowns, all that stuff ordered, so we'll have plenty of supply. If we do have to set up a clinic, but there's no vaccination for it, so it would just be isolation. But it hasn't touched this area, but certainly the state, the CDC is on top of it.
yeah. It's just, I don't know. I can't imagine.
Enjoy
those
your
people.
cruise.
Yeah.
Enjoy your cruise.
You'll be fine.
I'm gonna bring a lot of books.
Stay 6 feet away from everybody. You'll be all right. Anything else?
I just quickly want to note, I showed Matt, there's been a minor mistake, we're going to change it to Town of Charlton. These are mobile food stickers that are going on the trucks, but what they're doing is putting in the window while they're in Charlton, they have to be clearly visible.
Oh, City of Charlton.
Yeah, they,
Not yet, right?
not yet, but this will be
Well,
Town of
Southbridge
Charlton.
can't decide whether they're a city or a town.
But I will change it.
Or both.
They were supposed to be town, they put city, they made a mistake. It's only, believe it or not, $18 for all these. I will get them replaced, but this is the permit. So,
What are you gonna do with the old ones?
I'm gonna give them to your kids so they can stick them on the wall.
Yeah,
Tay, you want a big sticker?
Put them all over your
yeah.
building.
Well, this one's going tomorrow
see
for my
'em?
inspection, but when I'm done, I'll make sure that you get them, Matt, okay? For the boards.
We don't need too many, we got enough stickers.
Okay.
Stickers
We'll
are
give them a
fine.
couple, right?
But just an update, we're on top of coronavirus, the AAA, we're on top of, the new town administrator has asked, he's come in and spoke with me, Andrew Golis, about getting a task force together on getting rid of tires and standing water and pools, trying to eliminate the hazards now, which we're having a meeting with other department heads so we can do, community outreach to people to assist them and see if we can get someone to take the tires, because standing water and tires is a major issue in your backyards and stuff.
Is that gonna be an expense on the tire owners?
I'm trying to get a grant so it's no cost. And that's what Karen Spiewak has been trying to do, that there's a program out there. She's working diligently. She spoke with me. I've contacted some people about getting a municipal grant to have some of the tires taken away, or can we get involved with somewhere where they can pick them up for free at a one-time thing, and they can bring them to the curb and someone would pick them up. But right now, if you get rid of them, you have to pay for them. So I'm trying to,
Yeah,
so.
tires are a problem.
They are. Yep. So, that's all I have. I know there's a young man that'd like to probably go home and get to bed. So I'm not talking
Oh,
about-
he's a night owl, he stay up late, right? No school this week.
Oh, that's right.
That's right, yeah.
What do you got, Tay? Did you draw a picture?
Oh, oh,
What
my
is it?
goodness.
No.
Huh? It's a tree? Let me see it. I'll show it.
Very colorful tree.
Good job, Tay. I love it.
Taylor.
Good job.
Someone wanna make a motion?
Sure, will we set up the next meeting?
Sure.
Oh, yes.
2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Either one.
Jim, I don't know how to operate your phone yet.
Neither do I.
Do
Where are we here?
Yep.
So,
All right, I'll get the calendar here. 1 second.
Sure, we good.
Either March 3rd or
Third or
March, I'm sorry, 10th. The 10th of March would be 2 weeks.
Well, the 3rd would be 2 weeks, wouldn't it?
So I'm sorry, the 3rd would be 2 weeks. 10th would be 3.
how's the 10th for everybody?
I'm good.
March 10th,
Yeah.
6 p.m.
Kathleen, is that okay for you?
Yeah, looks good to me.
Not gonna be on any cruise, Kathleen?
No.
Matt, you're not gonna be doing well decommissioning?
Come home
No.
and wear a mask to the meeting.
Right.
Andrea, they vote on March 10th, next meeting, 6 p.m.
Okay.
All right, got a motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion adjourns. It looks like 8:02, 8:03.